What's up, everybody? It's the Masked Lantern, and welcome to my first official episode of My Two Cents. Ta-da! It's been a long time in the making, and I finally am doing this. And today, we're going to talk about Shin Godzilla, or Gojira, as it's pronounced. And I want to make this clear, this is your one and only spoiler warning. If you do not want to know what anything about the movie, click off now. Because I'm going to basically delve into this. And yeah, so this is your only warning. Because tomorrow, Saturday, will be the last time it is in the theaters in the United States, I believe. Until it comes out on DVD. So, let's begin. So, how to describe the beginning? Well, it starts off in a business meet. It starts off more like, It starts out with these guys discovering a boat and kind of just looking at it. And it's kind of like it's a first-person camera view where you are this one person. And so they're kind of looking around this boat and trying to decipher what's going on and things like that. And then the giant shake happens, and they're like, oh, holy shit, and things like that. Then it cuts to the water, and the water kind of looks red. It's kind of a reddish, blackish color. Like, if you ever cut yourself in water and you're bleeding, it's kind of that. It's that color, basically. So cuts to an office building, and they're just like talking, discussing, and this comes up, like, holy shit, there's something in the water, or something is causing the water to be this color, and they're like, is it a volcano? And one of the guys is like, might be something, and they're like, don't you dare say that, why would you say that? And so something comes out of the water. Now, it looks like a giant tentacle, so it's just like, type of thing. So, a giant tentacle thing comes out of the water, and everybody's like, well, shit, you were right, there was something in the water. And so for a long time, they're like moving to conference rooms, like even before the giant tentacle comes out, they're just like conference room. So yeah, they're like there's a lot of moving around the first beginning of the movie. They're kind of deciphering what to do or what it is, or if they even should do anything anyways. Then they get contacted that the thing is moving. The tentacle is moving. And they're like, oh shit, what the fuck? So it ends up not on land, but near land. And you kind of see like these spikes now kind of sticking out of it. It's just kind of mowing through the water of Japan. Just mowing through everything. Ships, bridges, anything honestly in this thing's way. It's just taking it out, basically. So for a minute, you honestly don't see what it is. You kind of assume it's Godzilla. But, you don't really see what it is for a while. And so they're like, oh shit, this thing is coming. And eventually they got a message that it comes on land. It's on land now. And so this creature's now on land and still kind of causing havoc. And you finally get to see what it looks like. Oh man, how can I describe what this thing looks like? Oh god, it looks really disgusting, honestly. It's like a gray, like a brownish type color with like ginormous eyes. Like these eyes are like huge. The damn thing looks like it's derping. It's Derpy. It's Derpy the dinosaur. That's what this thing is. It's Derpy the dinosaur. So it's kind of scooting along, just kind of like, like one of these motions type things. And You like, it's just kind of scooting along. But what's cool about this is part of it. Depending on what is happening, it's either CGI or it is a man in a suit. So they kind of, you get both worlds. Now, if you are a person in film or something, you'll pretty much be able to tell suit CGI. But that's besides the point. So then it continues, and they're just kind of deciphering what to do and all this stuff. And the creature's still wreaking havoc. It's crawling along its own business. It takes out a building by just crawling on it and then slamming down on it, and the building just collapses. Then they're just like, we gotta do something, and then it just cuts back to the monster, and they're like, wait, what's happening? Because they're kind of watching it on the television. And next thing, you kind of see like these little stubbles right there where arms should be, because this entire time this creature has been crawling. And then it gets on its hind legs, and arms just kind of sprout out of this thing, and skin kind of starts forming on it. And you're just like, huh? You're genuinely really confused. The eyes, though, are still there. The derpy eyes are still there. You're just kind of genuinely confused. And then it roars. And when it roars, you realize this thing is Godzilla. That this creature thing is Godzilla. And we're watching it. Even they say it in the movie. They say it's evolving in front of our eyes. You're seeing the birth of Godzilla, which I think is pretty cool. So you're kind of witnessing that. So after a while, Godzilla he's kind of glowing red. And for those of you who don't know, Godzilla is basically a walking nuclear time bomb. Or just nuclear waste. For those of you who don't know how he was made by the atomic bomb. So technically he's atomic. But whatever. So he jumps back in the water. And I'm just going to fast forward through a little bit of this, because a lot of I just wanted to get the opening plot out of the way, so you kind of understand. Because it fast forwards a little bit, because there's a lot of talking with the Japanese people, like discussing on what to do, how to do it, and things like that. So the Prime Minister is like involved with this 100%, like making decisions on what they should do and things like that. So I'm just gonna skip over that and just kind of focus on things with Godzilla. Godzilla comes back eventually, and he kind of starting to look a little more like what he should. But instead of like being that greenish color that we know him, it's more of like a dark, kind of like beef jerky type color. And he looks like, because of his hands are like really tiny and things like that. They're really small too. Like if I could honestly, like, imagine being a T-Rex, basically. That's the hand that Godzilla's working with right now. But he looks like kind of zombified and things like that. So, of course, the military comes in and they're trying to blow the shit out of him, and that's not working because it's the military, and Godzilla is just like, Godzilla. So, after Godzilla, for some strange reason, Godzilla has a real fascination on just making it to Tokyo. Like, he's just like, I gotta go to Tokyo. Tokyo has the deals. He's like really hell-bent on going to Tokyo. And the Prime Minister, and it's just basically telling the army, blow it out of the sky, destroy it, get rid of it. I don't want to deal with it. Just get rid of it. And of course, it's not working. So, fast forward a little bit more, Godzilla just kind of stops. And I don't mean like just stops and disappears. I mean, he just stops. Like, just the middle of Tokyo, because he makes it to Tokyo. He just stops and stands still. It's kind of confusing, honestly. Like, after a little bit of a rampage, he kind of just stops. It's not even like a rest type stop, because his eyes are clearly open, and you're just kind of like, what's going on? So after a while, and again, it goes back to the government of Japan and the prime minister basically discussing on what they should do to get rid of this thing, and they actually refer to it as a name eventually. They actually do refer to it as Gojira, the pronunciation of Godzilla. They actually pronounce it both ways. They call it Godzilla and Gojira, which is pretty fucking cool. So, anyways, Godzilla finally moves again. But kind of see some shining on his tail. And so then they kind of got the U.S. involved. At first, the U.S. was like, we're not going to be involved until you guys, like, attack it first. Then we'll do something. And so, they did that, obviously. So the U.S. kind of gets involved. And they drop bombs on Godzilla. And they somehow penetrate, like, they go through his spine, his dorsal fins and spine. It goes, like, in him. And that pisses him off. That might happen during that might have happened during the rampage as well, so I might be getting that wrong, but that does happen. Because around this time, either when he wakes up or before he goes to sleep, we witness the birth of the atomic breath, which was one of the coolest things to see. Just Godzilla, his atomic breath, because at first it starts out as just fire. Like, it just starts out as a fire breath. And then it morphs. Like, you can see it kind of, instead of like being out like a fire, it slowly starts to go in and atomic. So, and it's really cool to witness the atomic breath, like, actually happening. Because it starts from the tail and goes all the way up to his head, and he just shoots it out. But the weird thing about that is his jaw kind of unhinges like a snake, and that's how he's shooting it. I don't get that. But yeah, that's his jaw unhinges and the atomic breath's coming out. It looks amazing. It looks badass. And then I think at that point Godzilla rests, where we find out about the atomic breath and then he rests. Yeah. So fast forward, they're basically like also he can also make the whatever you want to call it. He can make the beam that comes out of his mouth, the atomic breath, also come out of his back. And it looks like a laser light show because he takes out the U.S. Army that way. Air Force, technically. He takes out a few of the United States Air Force that way by shooting a laser light show every goddamn where and takes them out. Also takes out the Prime Minister of Japan. So, yeah. So they're basically like, well, we're fucked. And the weird thing, though, about this point of the movie, it gets really serious. I'm not saying the whole movie was, like, tongue-in-cheek, but the decision they come to take out Godzilla, their first plan, because when they find out Godzilla is radioactive, their first plan is to freeze Godzilla, like literally freeze him. And when they realize they might not have enough time to do that, this movie takes a really, really like a real big turn. And it's a pretty emotional thing, honestly. And like, I was honestly, I don't know how to describe how I felt, but it was super emotional because they come to the term where they might actually have to, the U.S. suggests to drop another atomic bomb on Japan to take out Godzilla. Now, for those of you who don't know, that's how Godzilla became to be. When we dropped the atomic bombs on Japan back in World War II, they took that and made Godzilla, like, that's how Godzilla became a thing, was they took tragedy and made something with it. Now, to because a man who took over the area of prime minister took over from the old guy who was dead. This is a big decision. You are literally, in this case, giving permission to wipe out Japan again to stop a monster. The weight on this man, like, I can't even imagine the weight on this man to make this decision to say yes or no to this. The weight, it has to be just unbelievable. And of course, that pisses off a lot of the Japanese, because they're just like, we don't want to do that again. Some of us weren't around during it, but we know about it because of our grandparents and their grandparents to their grandparents to their parents to made it to them, that heard stories or just read it in books. Like, you can tell that this is a big emotional thing. This is a big emotional moment in the movie where this decision has to be made, and they say yes. They say yes to drop it. But of course, the Japanese government is just like, no, we don't want this. Give us time. Let us try to figure this out. Still freeze Godzilla. And I don't really know they might have explained it and I didn't pay attention that well, but they figure it out. They figure out how to freeze Godzilla. And so it comes to that point. It comes to to the big climax of this movie where it's like, you're either going to freeze Godzilla or Godzilla's going to stay and continue to rampage and you're going to have to be nuked again. So it comes to the big climax of the movie where they have they're distracting Godzilla with a drone, drones, basically shooting at him and things like that, and he's more focused on those than anything else. So as that's happening, they're just trying to they use train, and they even said train bombs, where they just sent trains out to blow up, to take, kind of like make Godzilla lose his balance and just fall. Because the thing was, they had these tankers and they were going to shoot, God, what is it called? I can't think of what it's called at the moment. Maybe it was CO2. Cold. They're going to shoot cold in Godzilla's mouth to freeze him, basically. First time they do it, Godzilla, because he gets knocked out, and he wakes up, and he just takes out all their equipment and everything like that. So they're like, shit, we have literally maybe one more chance. So they send more train bombs, and they send more train bombs, and knock him out again. They're actually doing it because they had a percentage of saying when they could, go. And at that point, they were at, 30%. So the second time they knock him down, they're at 100%. So they actually shoot it in his mouth. And Godzilla gets up again. So basically it's just like, oh crap, did it not work? Did it work? And you're just kind of waiting. And it just, at that moment, at least for me, it just felt like time kind of was slowing down, even during the movie. Because it's like, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? What's the situation in this? And all of a sudden, boom, Godzilla freezes. Just straight up frozen. It worked. And so, they're all excited, happy. This worked. I mean, obviously they know this is a temporary thing, because they even say that in the movie. It's like, this is temporary up until the point where he decides to move again. But they got it. They stopped Godzilla. And then before the movie ends, though, it cuts back because they're just kind of like, you know, saying like, oh, we did it and blah, 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 blah. So, not now, neighbors. But then it comes back to Godzilla, and it pans up to his tail, and there's like these weird looking creature things on his tail. So that means Toho is going to continue with another movie, and I can't believe that. So it was just, and that's how the movie ends. You just see these little creatures, and movie ends. It was honestly incredible to see this over on the big screen here in the United States. It blew my mind to see this. Now, there were a few things I just want to point out. I want to say personally, and this is me. This is my opinion. You can argue with it or you can agree with it, and that's fine. My opinion, I want to make a few bullet points real quick. Number one, there wasn't enough Godzilla. And I know that's weird to say that about Godzilla in a Godzilla movie, but there wasn't that much of him. Now, maybe this is how the original Godzilla was. I should go and watch that. And maybe that's how the original Godzilla was, where it was more focused on the Japanese people and the Japanese government and the army and trying to get rid of him like they did in the original. So in a way, I look at this as a reboot. They're rebooting the series, which is fine. But again, the time that Godzilla, it just didn't feel like Godzilla was on screen enough. Number two, some of the things they did and chose to do with this movie, some of it was really cool and some of it was just weird. Like the jaw opening with the atomic breath, that was weird but cool. But then he could shoot it out of his tail. I didn't bring that up because I just wanted to talk about this on here. But he can shoot the atomic breath out of his tail. Why? Now, don't get me wrong. Godzilla's done now in the past with the older Godzilla movies. There was some weird stuff in there, but why his tail? And if people can honestly answer these questions, that's fine. Feel free to answer them in the comment section below. And finally, there was a lot of dialogue, and that's not a bad thing. But the problem is, it was in Japanese, so you had to read subtitles, and that's fine. I don't mind reading subtitles. It's just that it's just one of those things where, because you're in a movie theater, and again, this is I want to make this clear, small, tiny, minute nitpick about this, that you can't really pause during a movie, so you gotta like read really quick. And for some people like me, who like, oh wait, what are they saying? They want to rewind and pause and read it. You know, we can't do that. But again, that's like a minor, small, tiny, insignificant, I should say, bullet point. But that's just something I wanted to say. But honestly, it was a really good movie. If you are planning on going to see it today or tomorrow, definitely go see it. But definitely go see it. It's a great movie. Now, it's definitely, I don't know if casual people could get into this. If you're a Godzilla fan, you would like it. And maybe, or if you just want to see, like, you know, what the whole ideal of Godzilla would be, I'd say check out the older stuff first so you can understand the evolution of this a little bit. You don't have to go all the way back. You can go as far, I'd say go as far back as Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, that three-headed dragon, the original one, and then you could, like, you know, go from there. Or, like, I mean, just watch any of them, but if you can't see this in the theaters, definitely pick this up. Definitely pick it up on DVD when it comes available. It is a great movie, and I honestly give it a rating of 8 out of 10. Some things I say they could have changed, like, you know, could have gave more Godzilla and things like that, but those are just my small nitpicks. You can agree, you can disagree. That's fine. That's what the show is about. It's just me talking. It's just me giving my opinion. That's it. This is not written in gold or anything. But I want to say thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, follow me on Facebook, do all that stuff. And also suggest things that you would want me to talk about on this show. 2 cents. I can, older movies, new movies, if there's a movie coming out that you want me to go see, leave it in the comments, honestly. And I'll do it. I'll really go see this movie. And I'll give my opinion. That's all this show is about. I want to thank you all for watching. This has been The Masked Lantern. I will see you next time. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.